Welcome everyone to the Vikings Scenario Series. In this series, I wanted to take a middle-of-the-road team and test out 3 different scenarios. What would happen if we would continue staying on track, just doing what's necessary to continue the way. Second scenario, to go all in and see if we can win it all just by investing everything we have. And as a third and final scenario, rebuild. What would happen if we totally tear everything down and start from the beginning to build a new team? So this is the scenario episode. We will have a look at the team, at the current situation, and then over the next few weeks, every week, there will be presented one scenario where I will go through, I think, around 5 seasons to see what would happen with each strategy. Current situation, or why I took the Minnesota Vikings. In reality, last year they were the definition of a middle-of-the-road team, finishing 8-9, had playoff chances, and also week 7 bye week. At that point, they were 3-3 after losing against Bengals, Cardinals, and Browns, and wins against the Seahawks, Lions, and Panthers. And what's really interesting about them is that they actually have a point differential of -1. So that's pretty well balanced, scoring 425 points on offense and 426 points allowed on defense. So that is definitely a mid-tier team. And also here, after being in week 7 bye week, we lost 3 games and won 3 games. So right now the question is, should we continue? How would the season look like if we just continue with the season with the current team? How would the season look like if we would invest everything and try to secure a playoff spot and win it all? And how would it look like if we would decide to start a rebuild just 2 weeks before the trade deadline? So currently our offense is 14th and 9th best defense in points per game allowed. Offensively, we have quite a lot of yards, mainly due to rushing games. So that's Dalvin Cook. Taking a look at him, he's 100 overall. Agility and speed, 98 is maybe a little bit higher than what I would have given him, but for sure a really, really good running back. Hands could be better for his role in the NFL, but he is a starter and going to be a good player for us. And passing, also top 5. So KIRK Cousins playing a really good season, 86 overall. So maybe on the better half of quarterbacks overall in the league, but not a top 10 quarterback. It's also, I think KIRK Cousins really stands for this team, mid-tier quarterback. And let's see what we're doing with him. I could imagine in the rebuild we're trying to find a new one, getting rid of him. And let's see what the strategy would be in all in. But for him, he's still on contract for the next 3 years with a cap hit of 43 million. I changed the contract since he just recently signed a 1-year extension with 2 void years, if I'm not mistaken. Void years is not something represented here in the game, so I ignored the void years and just basically gave him what his cap hit would have been, ignoring the void years. But also interesting decision to see what we're doing with KIRK Cousins. Also a big weapon for us in the offense is Justin Jefferson, wide receiver. I actually changed his overall to 86 or 87. Training camp also improved it a little bit. He was at a 76, I think, so I think that's just not fair. He's really one of the best wide receivers in the league. Also very young, just played for 1 year, 22 years old. I think he is going to be our wide receiver for the future. decent speed and agility, awesome intelligence and hands. Really excited for him to see what he can do, and also leads our team with 500 yards after just 6 games, 2 touchdowns. He is going to be our weapon on wide receiver. Defensively, right now, looks pretty good on the rushing side. Passing can improve. Also, I'm not a big fan of the Vikings secondary. Our leading defender in terms of interceptions is Mackenzie Alexander. He is currently in reality a free agent as far as I know. Could change, of course, but here on an extending contract, so also need to decide what we're doing with him. 83 overall. But other than that, not too many guys who can really be an impact player for us over the next couple of years. Let's look at the starters. We talked about Cousins, Cook on the offensive line. Guard could need an improvement. Tackle looks good here. Also center is decent. Tight end, not the best. Could also get some weapons. Wide receiver Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. But he's also one of the older players, having a 4-year contract with nearly 20 million. That does not help us in the long run, of course. And on defensive side, Patrick Peterson, currently on a very cheap contract. I also changed that because he signed a 1-year contract, a 1-year extension with the Vikings. Pretty cheap, under 4 million if I'm not mistaken. Here it's a little bit more. Also 91, maybe higher overall than I would judge him in reality. But we can work with that, and let's figure out what we're doing on our other cornerback position with Mackenzie Alexander's contract running out. Linebacker Anthony Barr, also one of the better ones, but also not the youngest. Same for Eric Hendricks, so maybe 2 years. That might be helpful for us. Anthony Barr also only 1 year left on the contract. In reality, also a free agent as far as I know, so let's see what we're doing with him. Defensive tackle, Vikings released Michael Pierce in March this year. Here he's really good, especially with his strength. Looking at the stats, already 2 sacks and 3 tackles for loss. So maybe he can be on our team for the remaining years of his contract. And Sheldon Richardson, 30 years old, but also one of the better defensive tackles here. So that really helps us in the run game, as seen in the stats. Edge rusher Daniel Hunter is one of the better ones, 87 here, also pretty big contract, but only 26 years old, so he can be our piece in the defense to build around. He can be on the team in all of the 3 scenarios, I think. He's a pretty good edge rusher. Does not yet have the numbers this season, so only 2 sacks, could be more. And safety, playing Cameron Bynum, since Xavier Woods, who would be our free safety, left the team in free agency in reality, so I won't extend him, and therefore also not playing him right now. Bynum also had a little bit of improvement. I think he started with 78 or something like that. And strong safety, Harrison Smith, also one of the older players. So this team is really, really interesting. Some older players who won't be on the team long term, and some pieces to build around. Maybe Dalvin Cook for sure, Justin Jefferson, and also Daniel Hunter. O-line could use some improvement on guard, but this team looks interesting. Taking a look at the standings, we're currently second in the NFC North, behind the 6-0 Packers. Lions also 3-3, and the Bears with a losing record so far. So everything's still possible. We can still compete for a playoff spot, but also we could fall down and maybe end up third or fourth in the division. It's really interesting to see where the team is going and which of the three scenarios works best. Should we just stay on track? Should we go all in? Or should we start a rebuild? Let's start with staying on track and continue what we're doing.